Hi everyone. This is my second attempt at recording this one, but this one's gonna be pretty great. Like recorded wise. I don't know how the content's gonna be. I hope you like it. This is called History Repeats Itself. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that on a previous episode. They're just gonna dive right into this. If I was a very political child as a kid, I wasn't exactly a nerd. I definitely wouldn't say I was a nerd. I was a hyperactive kid with ADHD that liked to read a lot, but also couldn't stand still, couldn't sit still, and couldn't stop imagining shit half the time. So I definitely wasn't a nerd. I wasn't cool either, but like for example, the first bully someone tried to bully me, I hit them on the side of the head with a rock in the temple, and then the bullying stopped. I was like expelled. The kid is fine. He was fine. Everything was fine, but I was in a lot of trouble afterwards. So I remember history class. I remember in every history class comparing it to current events, like everything that's going on at the time, not realizing how people don't see the similarities between things happening in world events of the past to the current situations that we're living in. Like I remember reading about the ban of alcohol and seeing all these like drug dealers, I guess, trying to cross marijuana over and trying to sell marijuana and all of this whole thing that started to move. And then I started to see all the people try to talk about how it's not that bad for you, even though it is scheduled as it is registered as a Schedule something drug. I don't remember the specifics of it, but I just remember seeing it and thinking, well, isn't that the same thing? And now that we see more legalization and more laws about it, I'm like, yeah, it definitely was the same thing. Why did nobody realize this? Why the hell? So I'm pretty happy right now with where the world is in terms of tech and medical advances. In almost every way, I'm pretty happy with how we're doing, except, well, how we are as humans. In general, the way we treat one another is awful. The way that we tend to talk to one another is pretty harsh and awful. There's just really bad communication in general right now with us as humans. We're really not doing great on that front. So, going back to the history thing. When we try to find the reasoning for things occurring now, a lot of things done by the current president of the U.S. were also done by Carlos Salinas de Gortari, Mexico's president from 1988 to 1994. Right before fleeing the country and leaving it in ruins, he took a bunch of money, did a lot of nepotism. He privatized everything he could. Oh, and he was, and that's pretty much where we have been headed for a while now in the US. Things don't look great. They didn't look great. They're looking a lot better right now, kind of, a little bit, because of the possibility of change in the future. So then the pandemic hit, right? And everything got even worse. Carlos Salinas de Gortari's focus when he was running for president of Mexico was economical, and everybody was voting for him because he was such a great businessman, and he had such great. It's incredibly the same, and how he drove the country to the ground was pretty much the same. There are still people out there that would say the opposite. They would say he didn't bring it to the ground, he made it better. I'm not 100% sure on that. He privatized as much as he could. He privatized oil and communications so that not the country wouldn't be responsible for them, but companies would be responsible for them, which is okay in a lot of ways, but it's also kind of takes away a lot of the burden from the government to be able to supply those things and be able to give a good price to its citizens, which was the whole reason for it. Luckily, he wasn't able to privatize healthcare, so Mexico still has that free healthcare if you have a job. Basically, if you're employed, you can give a little incentive. Your employer has to give a little incentive, and you get healthcare. That's it. That's the end of that. Why is it moving so much? Is my camera moving so much? It's supposed to be stabilizing, not moving. Okay, I'm just gonna have to use it like that. Okay, so he even ordered burning the ballot boxes of when he won like the election and shit. That didn't happen now, but there's just so much shadiness in general. So due to inequality and poverty in certain areas in Mexico, I remember there was this huge upbringing, this huge eruption of well, basically, an armed revolution kind of broke out because of inequality and all these same things that we're talking about now. That caused this giant armed revolution in Mexico. There was one person that they could have been aided by, which was assassinated by I don't know who. I think we don't know who, or his name was you don't know who, because that is a name in Mexico, in Spanish. I mean. There are too many people that know more about this issue than I do, definitely, and I expect to have them like to talk on this. A couple of them from two completely different sides. I would love to have like a little panel with one of them's a lawyer, the other one's a historian. So I know that they have very opposing views, and they don't know each other. So I would love to talk to them like on here about this situation and comparing it to the current thing. Like I said, one of them is a lawyer, the other one was a historian. I'm a musician. Yeah, I don't have a lot of insight here, but I would love to have them both on. Anyway, this man pretty much stole from the country and gave us much trouble to deal with much later as a country. And in many ways, I see the same thing happening now in the U.S. I just wanted to put this here and then kind of like suggest that that's something we should have been looking at since the beginning. So I have a couple of questions for anybody that watched this all the way through the end. Hopefully, I'm gonna post these questions somewhere else, possibly on Instagram. But why don't we put more effort into teaching the populace to learn from history, to see other countries and to learn from their history, like since birth, since very, very young? We have that we have that in the rest of the world. Doesn't seem like we have that here in the U.S. Like, you're supposed to learn about ways to, or let's say logical ways to compare how the world is and where it's going, so that you can actually make good decisions of your life. I think. So why don't we put more effort into teaching the populace to learn from history? The other one would be, why does it feel like arrogance is a virtue to people lately? That's not right. That's not right. Arrogance is the reason you get hit in the temple with a rock. It's so messed up. So, right, do you know, are you aware that there is a world outside of your city, state, country? You are aware of that, right? That there is life outside of here. Wherever here is for you, there's a lot of outside. Do you know that there are full-on lives being lived in every single one of those outsides that you're thinking of? They're full-on lives. They're just as complicated as your own. Some of them much, much more. Some of them much, much less in terms of maybe turmoil. But there are still full-on lives. There are still full-on people out there. Billions of them, of us. Me too. So, anyway, that's what I'm ending with. Love you all. Please love each other too. And please subscribe, comment, answer these questions for me, please. I'm lonely. Bye.